Here at Daytona, the key is a matter of tactics. Can you find someone to run with you to help you get around this circuit, Bobby Unser?
They certainly can, Paul. And, of course, we look towards the NASCAR guys teaming up the most and trying to do this, and that's because they have such a tremendous amount of experience on the high bank, fast ovals such as Daytona Beach. So the kart guys will be trying to figure them out. Of course, the road race drivers are really working on it hard.
True, Bobby, but this race makes for strange bedfellows. Anybody you can hook up with, you're suddenly his best buddy, at least for a few minutes.
The pace car rolls toward the pits. These identically prepared IROC Chevrolet Camaros now stream toward the green flag. The green flag is out, and Rick Mears nailed that start perfectly. He really anticipated it well, and Mears pulls into the lead. A fight develops back in second place. That's A.J. Foyt on the high side.
Reminds you of Indianapolis, doesn't it? Rick Mears pulling away from the front.
He gambled on that start a little bit. Normally, NASCAR makes them come across really even, but that's what we call a sprint car start. Now look at the race. Rick's no longer. They're already doubling it. Now the position's going to start moving out.
And in the back of the field, Rusty Wallace now begins to cut his way through. He started all the way in the back. Now we're on board with Rusty Wallace. Look at this as Wallace from his bumper cam moves through the field.
The white car there is Dale Earnhardt. Things happen so fast when you're in the track. You have to make up your mind in split seconds, and it's the men from NASCAR who have the most experience so that they can react instinctively rather than having to think through what they have to do.
And Rusty Wallace continues his charge up from last place. He's now battling for second. That's Richard Petty just ahead, and Petty takes the lead.
Right now, you notice that nobody is teaming up with anybody. They're just merely going for it, just like a bunch of like hogs going to slop. They don't care where they light out as long as they can get this thing singled out. Then you'll see the guys start teaming up a little bit.
Well, Bobby, if you had any question about Richard Petty and his capabilities, and Sam, you seemed mildly critical in the opening of this show. Look at it now.
I wasn't critical. I was fearful that perhaps Richard, who's had so many accidents over the last few years, might have lost a little something. Right now, leading here at Daytona, the track where he has won so often, such big races, it must be doing wonders for his self-confidence, and I'm more thrilled than anybody to see it.
And you started to see Rick Mears wanted to pull out and go around, but he was just a little bit afraid, because look at here. You pull out, now the guy in the bottom is liable to just to start sliding back if he doesn't get back up in the hole.
That's Rusty Wallace, the number 12, that dark blue car running in third. And Wallace came all the way up from the last row to come up into this fight. And look at this. They're all side by side as they run down the backstretch, trying to find a little racing room getting into number 3.
Yes, but A.J. Foyt in that pink car right there in the center of the screen has been slipping back. Remember, he started on the front row. He's now back in the middle of the pack. So A.J. Foyt is having some problems. Here's the look from Rusty Wallace's car. Wow, you see how close they run.
And you also get an idea there, Bobby Unser, as we're looking at Rick Mears just ahead. Watch those tires squirm a little bit. Look how unstable they tend to be.
That gives the people an idea how powerful air is. Even though we can't see it, it really makes these cars dance around a little bit. And even though sometimes the on-camera car looks like the guys are sleeping, believe me, they're not sleeping, is they?
Out in front, the orange number 6, that's Richard Petty, as he leads his IROC field, followed now by Dale Earnhardt. And we're seeing something that we haven't seen in past IROC races here at Daytona. They are able to fight with one another quite a bit. Do you think that's the new spoiler on the front end?
I really believe it looks like so far that it's helping, Paul. Everybody's been wondering what would happen when we put them all together in one pile. So far now we're seeing them run 2 and even 3 abreast sometimes. They're just now starting to single out a little bit, but most of the passing. You think Richard has come up a long way. Earnhardt's really come up a long way, and so is Al Jr., who's already in 4th place.
Yes, but who's really come up is Rusty Wallace in that dark blue car running third. He started on the back row. You see him now in third, and what we're looking at is 3 NASCAR drivers, Petty, Earnhardt, and Wallace running 1, 2, 3. So once again, even a touch there between Wallace and Earnhardt. Wallace is actually pushing Earnhardt, and he's pushing him into the lead.
And that, Bobby Unser, is a tactic that they'll use today.
Absolutely. There's the typical NASCAR thing where the guys teamed up. They did just a little bit of bumping, and you pick up about 3 miles an hour if you just barely touch the other car. Both of them pick it up, and both of them just sail right by.
Well, Rusty Wallace continues in second place. That is Dale Earnhardt leading the race, lying just ahead as they come across the tri-oval. And we take a look at the standings with Earnhardt and Wallace Petty, and Elliott, the NASCAR drivers dominating the top 5. We'll be right back. We're back at Daytona International, where the NASCAR drivers are dominating the front of this field. It's Earnhardt, followed by Wallace, then IndyCar driver Al Unser Jr., then Richard Petty and Bill Elliott.
Well, Rusty has been bumping Dale Earnhardt, trying to get him to get a little bit faster so he can break the slipstream from Little Al. And there he is again, just barely bumping before they get into the turn. Now, Little Al has the advantage of 2 cars ahead breaking up the air, so he's been able to keep right up on their bumper, too.
Now, these front bumpers that we're talking about, the spoilers, on an ordinary street car, they're apt to be very thin. As anybody who owns a car with a spoiler knows, you have to be careful pulling into parking lots and over ditches and whatnot. Here, they are extremely strong, so you can take a pretty good hit with one of those front spoilers. A quick point about Rusty Wallace, who's come up through the pack. Here is a young, extremely aggressive young man. You see him in the center of the screen here in the dark blue car. And he gets his energy, his racing energy, more off other people. He's not the kind of guy who has his own strategy and keeps to himself. Realize that he has passed virtually every car in this race to come up to where he is. He's got, I think, all the confidence in the world right now.
We just got a wonderful view of the undercarriage of Dale Earnhardt's car. He's the current leader. Rusty Wallace runs in second. This is a fight for 4th place. A.J. Foyt in the pink car. Terry Labonte, Bill Elliott, all right there and fighting for 4th position as they move around the 2.5 miles of Daytona. Richard Petty lies in 3rd, but Rusty Wallace charged all the way up to the back of the field. He's a hyper individual, he says.
No, I like rock and roll. I'm not too much of a country western guy unless it's fast country, and I just don't like hearing about those songs when your poor old dog's dying, you know. But I'm a kind of a hyper individual, and I like to keep moving pretty quick. I'm not a hard rocker, you know. I'm a Bruce Springsteen, Rolling Stones type of guy, you know.
Rusty Wallace loves rock and roll, currently runs in 2nd behind the leader Dale Earnhardt. That's Al Unser Jr. in the lime green car running in 3rd place. These drivers have all had plenty of opportunity to practice in these cars.
Last night, when there was a practice session just at twilight, Little Al went out with Danny Sullivan, of course, 2 Indy greats, and Little Al was trying to show Danny, who was not used to this form of racing and is a rookie today in IROC competition, a few of the techniques involved. He bumped him from behind, Sullivan spun and hit the wall, damaged the car pretty extensively.
Well, there are actually 2 different groups in contest right now. They're both groups. The fight for the lead at the left of your screen, that is Earnhardt, then Rusty Wallace, then Al Unser Jr. You can see Jr. drops off just a bit as Wallace comes up to tap the back end of Earnhardt's car, but Jr. is still very definitely riding in the draft of the leader. And then the fight for 4th, A.J. Foyt, Bill Elliott, and Terry Labonte as they battle around this giant circuit.
So now, if you notice right now, Paul, they're all afraid to jump out of line. The first 3 cars are trying their best to break the slipstream, the draft, between the second group of 3 cars. But nobody right now is misbehaving. They can't afford to drop back now.
Well, A.J. Foyt has managed to pull Elliott and Labonte forward. They're beginning to close on the top 3. So very quickly here, we will have a fight for 1st through 6th as the draft working for these IROC Camaros. A.J. Foyt closing in now on the back end of Al Unser Jr.'s car. As we go on board once again, this is with Richard Petty, who was running with the leaders and has dropped back to 8th. Let's look at the history of this great man. Ask any person you meet, who is this man, and they will probably recognize Richard Petty. The look has changed over the years, but the man hasn't. He is a racer with a record that most agree will never be matched. He's won 13 races in one season. He's won 10 races in a row. He's been a series champion 7 times. He's won the Daytona 500 7 times, and he has 200 career victories. He's had his good times and his bad times.
I always figured that if you're scared, you shouldn't be out there in the first place. You know, that's for sure. If you've got any doubts about your ability, you shouldn't be out there. Well, I've never had those doubts. I always told them that, if anything happens, it happens so fast, you don't have time to be scared, and then when it's over with, there's no need of being scared. So I guess that's my philosophy on it. I just look at it that if I had any doubts at all on my ability, I wouldn't be out there.
Daytona, 1988. Perhaps the most frightening time for race fans when a national television audience watched Richard Petty flip down Daytona's front stretch. But Daytona also has given Richard some of his most memorable victories. 1981, his 7th Daytona 500. And in July of 1984, his 200th victory, watched by millions, and the President of the United States. The setbacks are more frequent now as the years pass. The competition gets younger, with the victories harder to come by. Richard Petty rejoins IROC as a true champion, as a living legend.
I'm still happy when I get in that race car. I still love to drive a race car, and you know, as long as I do that, then I'm not endangering myself or somebody else, and I'll probably still be in there digging along.
Well, Richard Petty is still digging along in the 50th of the IROC Series, the 50th race. He's running in 8th place. That's Haywood running just ahead of Richard Petty. Look how unstable those cars get as they maneuver through the air here. They're a lot more unstable from those onboard cameras than they are from this wider shot. This is back at the front of the field. That's Dale Earnhardt, Rusty Wallace, and Al Unser Jr., and you can see A.J. Foyt leading Elliott and Labonte as they continue to close in. You could literally throw a blanket over the first 6 cars. Looking now as Wallace closes on Earnhardt.
When you think of how much experience in the Winston Cup circuit counts for when you race in this race at Daytona, that Al Unser Jr. is able to run 3rd, and I mean, by no means is he out of contention. He's right in there. It is, I think it points to his greatness as a racer, and certainly to his versatility.
So out in front, car number 7, Dale Earnhardt, followed by 12, Rusty Wallace, and 10, Al Unser Jr. As Bill Elliott comes down inside A.J. Foyt, and the fight is for 4th place here. There are the 3 out in front once again, and Elliott, watch that group of 3 now begin to pull up. Elliott challenges Foyt down to the inside, still averaging over 187.5 miles an hour, and Elliott got caught out, and as a result, Labonte is able to slide in behind A.J.
Oh, that was a good move on Elliott's part.
All right, we'll be back with more from Daytona right after this. We're back. The International Race of Champions. A.J. Foyt rides in 4th place as he tries to work his way up and close on the front group of 3 that are made up by Earnhardt, Wallace, and Al Unser Jr. Look at Rusty Wallace give Earnhardt a push at better than 185 miles an hour.
Paul, one of the biggest problems that Rusty has to look at, and he's a stock car driver, he's very experienced in it, but it's the temperature. When you run that close, your engine starts running hot. It becomes a hard-on because you're not really getting a lot of air into the radiator. So he'll have to back off and run off to the side occasionally.
And interestingly, this is Wallace's first race in IROC. He's a rookie in this form of competition. So whether he's looking down at that temperature gauge or not, I don't know.
But if you're going to talk experience, these cars are closest to a stock car. So Rusty Wallace has to be very comfortable in this. It's not that different from his Winston Cup car.
Yes, and his mind has been on IROC for years. He has gone out many times as a favor to Jason Yori, who organizes this whole IROC thing mechanically, and tested the cars for him at the super speedways. And as Jay put it to me this morning, Rusty always hung around kind of with his tongue hanging out. He wanted very badly to be part of this IROC, and now he's having his chance, and he's really making the most of it.
And we've talked about this whole technique of drafting, and there is a vacuum area behind the lead car, and if you're capable, you get up in that vacuum area, and it will pull you along. But Bobby Unser, we talked about it just a little bit. Let's elaborate. There is a danger to that vacuum area as well. That means that all of the air that normally you need passing through the front of your car isn't there any longer.
That's right.
That affects the cooling and the handling.
Absolutely. Now you can watch there. We just watched it a bit ago. Foyt pull out and make a try on it. Well, Foyt, if he made a try on passing him on the bottom, for example, Paul, like he is right there now,